Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating, but thriving with the cosmic tides. My name is Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with your favorite astrological weather woman, predictive astrologer, Anne Ortelee. And we're here for the weather for what I know is a big one. I don't even have to ask you, Anne, but I'm going to anyways. But before we go there, I just wanted to make sure you all know that you are invited to our free solstice panel, which is happening on June 3rd. And we're going to have 7 astrologers giving us insights into the big themes for the rest of the year. You'll get insights on how you can be proactive with the coming energies, and you will get some insights into 2022. So what's heading our way, how you can prepare now. And we're going to have Judith Hill, Cameron Allen, Tom Jacobs, Ari Moshi, Kira Taborn, Amelie Grace, and Divine Harmony, who are also our next 7 inner circle guides. So they're going to be here giving you a little bit of a preview into the lunar month that they're going to be in charge of as our inner circle guides, and also giving you lots of amazing insights into the upcoming energies, which I know you get here every week with Anne, which is perfect. And this is going to give you that, okay, let's look, 6 months ahead and into 2022 and start to get a sense of the flavor of that energy. So I hope that you will all join us. You just go to astrologyhub.com/solstice. That's astrologyhub.com/solstice. It's totally free. It's going to be fun. I love the panel events. And I'll never forget the first panel we did with Anne. This was the first time it happened and the last time it happened. It has never happened any other time. But Anne came on for her time slot, and she was literally upside down.
It looked like a bat.
She looked like a bat hanging from the ceiling. And it was this moment of what? Oh my gosh, what is going on? How do we fix it?
Amanda freaked out a little. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I did. I didn't know I could sign on, right?
Anne, why are you upside down?
I had no idea.
Oh my God, it was so fun, you guys. So this is what I find with the panel events is there's always some sort of curveball. It's totally unpredictable. There's 7 astrologers who will be on with me live. So it's always pretty entertaining.
Always something. Right?
Yeah, always something. So if you can join us for that, great. If you can't make the time, please still sign up, because then we'll know to send you the replay, which will be open for free for a limited time. If you do decide to join the Inner Circle, or if you're already an Inner Circle member, you'll have access to the recordings forever. So we're really excited for that event coming up June 3rd. All right. Anne.
Amanda, you look lovely. You had a lovely vacation. You're all nice and tan from your vacation.
And I am not actually tan. What is happening is that the camera I usually use is not picking up the light, and I was reminded with Mercury going retrograde, and all the input you've been giving us. It's like, oh, Amanda, you need to do the thing Anne's been telling you, which is back up your stuff. I need to get files off my computer. Things are already starting to get glitchy. So that's why I'm so dark today. And I apologize for that.
I was going to say, I look like Casper the Friendly Ghost, and you look like a tan goddess. So it looks good on you. I would go with it.
Okay, fine. I'll go with it. I won't fix it. Okay. All right. So Anne, tell us about the theme and the intensity scale.
Okay, it's pretty intense this week. Last week was, we did Cray-Cray Grand Central. This week we have a little more emotion because we're going to have a full moon total eclipse. Now, California, West Coast folks can actually see it. You get up and watch. It's at 7:13 East Coast time, so adjust for your time zone. So the sun's already risen here, so we can't see it, but the rest of you can. And it's a full moon eclipse. It takes us back to the earlier times. November 26th of 2019, there was a new moon at 5 Sag. And then August 26th of last year, 2020, there was a Virgo sun, moon in Sag, opening square. This is the full moon. And then we go to February 25th, I think it is, 2022, and that'll be a Pisces sun and a moon in Sag. So we're working with an older story, but we're really getting it revealed. We have a little issue this week because Mars is out of bounds, Venus is out of bounds, Mercury is out of bounds. Now Mars is going to come back in, which is good, so he stops being so wild and crazy. But Mercury and Venus are out of bounds, and this week the moon is out of bounds in Sag and Capricorn. So we're going to have super strong emotional reactions. We also have Mercury and Venus joined, and they're going to connect because Mercury's stopping. So we have him slowing down. He stations on Saturday, and he goes, okay, now I'm going to go backwards for 24 days. So he will be retrograde during the next eclipse. And we know that whole eclipse season, the last 2 weeks, the 2 weeks between the Wednesday and the June 10th eclipse, and then the 2 weeks after, that's eclipse season. Sometimes they're longer. This one's only 6 weeks, but it's very potent because the planets that are involved are the Pleiades, which are the planet. There, it's an interesting constellation in the constellation of the Bull, and they invite us to see things, but they also bring forward the feminine energies in a very intense way. Of course, it is Taurus, which is technically a female sign, but it's a very intense energy of seeing. But there's this big T square forming in the sky. So first there's the T square of the eclipse, which is the sun and the moon, which we get, but they're near the nodes of fate. So they invite us to change things. They're squaring Vesta, the hearth, the home and hearth. So they're saying, you need to make changes in your home and hearth. And then we have Mercury and Neptune, or Mercury and Venus meeting up. They're going to be opposite the energy over here with the Sag energy. And then up here, we have Neptune and Venus. We have Neptune and Athena forming a T square. So whenever there's a T square, there's a lot of action in the sky. And of course, it's involving Neptune. So it's going to bring to light things we hadn't seen before. And, and when it happens on an eclipse, it doesn't tend to be pleasant stuff. It tends to be, what were you doing? I didn't know you were doing that. And so people can feel a little emotionally blindsided, wrong word, but, the kind of like, what have you, it's just an awareness, and it's a reveal. Eclipses reveal things, and they kind of pop things, similar to you turn the light on in the kitchen and the bulb blows, and you have that moment, right? And also we know that technically what happens is because the planets are all aligned, we lose the electromagnetic pulse from the lights. And even though we get the reflected light from the moon, there's a pulse. But then the solar eclipse, the sun actually literally goes away and we lose the light. So it drops the energy and then it pumps it back up again. And so there's this deepening, this kind of like drop into it and then emerge. So there's a lot of stuff up there. We also have a couple hammers of Thor, which are, I am done with this situation. You are gone. So and Remo always comes over and I do the hammers of the, hi Remo, thanks for helping. Here he's right there, you can see him. But yeah, the hammers of Thor kind of clear things out, but this big old T square energy is very intense. And our job with it is to kind of go, okay, because the Sag energy, I blanked on what it was. It's Juno, who we partner with and why we're partnering. So we have this big T square revising our partnerships, thinking, and it doesn't have to be romantic. It's partnerships with people, it's partnerships with ourselves, it's partnerships with, and testing, very testing energy. Plus Mars is in Cancer and he is pulling away, but he's approaching a trine to Neptune. So we have a lot of action in the heavens, again, kind of cray-cray, but people are going to be popping off with the moon out of bounds, Mercury out of bounds, and Venus out of bounds. Mars comes in, so that's helpful, but we're going to go. And literally, while you were away last week, there was a guy playing. I always do the out of bounds. It's a home run, over the fence, cheer, cheer, or it's a line drive into the stands, and you hit somebody with a ball, and blood and gut. They had that guy get the ball in the nose, and it broke his nose in 4 places. I'm like, well, that's a real Mars out of bounds. Not even out of the field, just right out of the batter's box. So we're going to feel the energy is pretty intense. And when that happens, there's also Neptune is hanging out with Orpheus. And of course, Orpheus is music. So I'm going to encourage everybody to really soothe themselves with music this week. The happy songs, the sad songs, the I broke up with you, the ones that, inspire you. It will help a lot in working with this energy, because the T-square is Gemini, Sag, Pisces. It shoots into Virgo. So you need to do something with the energy that'll help it ground it, because it's a very ungrounded sky right now. Even though there's some, there's Pluto over there in Capricorn, not a lot of grounding. And so we want to kind of figure out how we can self-ground. And I do find, if you ever watched a movie with the sound off and then you watch a movie with the sound on, it's a very different experience. Even just take a music video. One day I was talking to someone and listening to Jennifer Lopez, and I turned the volume off, and then she's dancing there. And it was a very, I'm watching it. It's a very different experience with no music, right? So turn on the music to help you work with this energy. It'll make it a lot easier to work with. But it's a big one. We had Saturn go retrograde on yesterday. And we have Mercury going retrograde on Saturday. And he'll be retrograde only 24 days, but he's intense because he's out of bounds. He's just telling all sorts of stuff. So our job with this is we're going to find out things. We're going to go, wow, I didn't know that. And you weren't supposed to till now. But you're also going to feel that you need to take some kind of action. But because Mars is trine Neptune, I would hold on the action. I would play music instead. I would meditate. I would listen. I would think about like what you want to do versus what you're feeling pulsed to do. If you're feeling like a pulse, I have to do this, you probably should sit down and have a cup of tea and then relax, because the energy is kind of frantic, but it's also pushing. It's really pushy. And, it's like push back, kind of thing. So, or just let it flow over you. When we've talked about your surfing analogies, you paddle past the wave. But also you can dive into the wave. You can sink underwater and let the wave go over you. You can just have it whack you. And I would suggest with this energy, you don't want it whacking you. You want to kind of work with the energy of feeling in a new way, because it's a big feeling week. Does that help?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Does that help, Anne? Of course it does.
Well, no, but I mean, people are really feeling very overwhelmed emotionally, and and interestingly, Saturn is on Panacea, and of course, the Panacea is an asteroid, which says, okay, and I have a really good friend, and she'll call me up, and I've known her since the 80s, and she'll go, okay, so I want you to tell me it's going to be okay, right? I want you to tell me it's going to be okay. I go, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. They're there, and you kind of pat the arms. It's going to be okay. You can't, I can't make it okay, but I can say to her, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. So you want to kind of know you need to do that with yourself, and maybe with your kids, and maybe with your partners, and maybe with the whole world. It's going to be okay. It's temporary. They're there. And of course, Saturn with the Panacea, he's not fixing anything. He's just saying it's going to be okay. But it isn't right now.
Right.
And that's the key to remember. The transits, they're temporary, they're heightened emotions. And then you want to go, do I really want to react to that or not? And you might want to, I did my podcast yesterday, the one I do, the weekly weather, and somebody had written that, the virus was like Michael Jordan selling sneakers, and I should be nicer to the Republicans. And I'm like, hey, sneakers are $100. They don't kill people. Like, what are you talking about? But I was like, all right, I calmed down, thought about what I wanted to say. You need to recognize you're going to want to go like that. And then you have to go, okay, what do I want to do? It's not sneakers.
Yeah.
But it's understanding, we're going to feel, and then we have to figure out what our approach is. And of course, we handle it based on our chart. So if you get that overwhelm, what's your job? Do you lean into it? Do you go to bed? Do you argue with it? and so you want to watch for your response, because Mars is in Cancer, answering to an out of bounds moon. So even though Mars has come in bounds, the moons are still out of bounds. So the Sagittarius moon is very bossy, very talky, very bah, 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 bah. They always tell you what they think, whether you want to know or not. And then it goes into the Capricorn moon, which is, oh my God, I'm so depressed. Right. So we've got these two varying emotional energies running through the week on top of an eclipse. So it's really recognizing, and it can change in a dime. It can be, you're going along fine, and then boom, you plummet. And that's okay. That's part of the energy. It's a T-square. It's a mutable T-square. So it's very changeable, and it's very action oriented, and it shoots to the Virgo, which is, one, how do you want to take responsibility for it? Or how do you feel guilty about it? You want to kind of watch if you're feeling guilty. Maybe I don't really want to feel guilty. I want to do something, because Virgos like to fix it. Or if I'm feeling really criticized, how do I handle it? How do I work with it? And it's a hard week.
Okay. And what would you say is the theme and the scale? Or we're off the charts this week?
Yeah, off the charts.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
Okay. Well, it's because everybody's out of bounds,
Right.
So when they're out of bounds, we may be fine, but they might be off the charts, and you're dealing with someone who's having a huge emotional reaction to stuff.
Yeah. And then what would you say the theme is?
Cray-Cray with emotion.
We were Cray-Cray in Grand Central last week.
Yeah.
Now we're Cray-Cray with emotions. Okay. Well,
Cray-Cray with emotions in Grand Central.
In Grand Central.
I'm going to make it, because it's Gemini Sag, so it's got that muting aspect. Right. And then Cray-Cray is because of the everything out of bounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Anne, something super magical, I just have to say.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, which is the eclipse, right?
It's the eclipse.
I will be interviewing Barbara Hand Clow.
Oh, I love her. She's
right.
Wonderful. Yeah.
She wrote that book about the Pleiades.
Yes.
And she has a simultaneous existence, she says, here and on Alcyon, which is part of the Pleiades.
Well, that's the one that's active this week. Yeah, Alcyon's active.
I mean, so you guys have to tune into this, because that is such a magical synchronicity that I've been in communication with Barbara Hand Clow for like almost over a year now, trying to see if she would do an interview and get the right time and all that. And it's landing on the eclipse, on this Pleiades point. Like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah. And the planets are on the Pleiades. Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. That's fascinating.
And they're the seven sisters. People, they have a really interesting mythology. So I encourage people to go Google the Pleiades and Google Alcyon. Yeah.
Okay.
She's often considered the lead of them, the seven sisters, but
Alcyon.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's active this week. Yeah. So.
Very fascinating. Okay. So a couple questions. How do people look at their own chart and decide if their chart is going to be really active this week or not?
They want to look if they have stuff at 5 of the mutables, or any 5 gets activated, and anything at 22, 21, 22, those are going to be activated.
Oh man, those are those degrees from last year.
I am.
Okay.
We like those 22s. Well, what's happening now is Neptune is there, and Mercury and Venus are there, and we're deciding how we're going to work. Basically, we all got sat down. Well, not everybody. Some people worked really hard, but a lot of us got sat down and looked. The structures of our life shrunk, and said, "Pay attention to the structures. We're going to renovate them and change." And give you a new structure. And then now we're emerging, and we're going, okay, I have to make choices based on what I figured out last year. So with the eclipses, this one is 5. So this one is more, what I'd really like, because remember, one of them was before COVID. One was in November of 19. The other one was in August of 20. We had COVID, and now we're being released, right? There are masks off, Broadway's opening. I was out this weekend, and it's like no pandemic. So now we're at the full moon, but we also went through this experience. So it's saying to you, well, what did you learn from the experience? What did you learn? And now we're making choices with the Uranus-Saturn square all year about what we want the structure of our new life to look like. So that's the important part, is like, well, what's the structure? In my case, the condo and New York, kind of both back and forth. Better work-life balance, that's what I'm looking at. And how do I get there? Right. And then everybody's making their decisions. A lot of people are moving, a lot of people graduating from high school or college, and they're entering new chapters, because they're finished with that chapter. And of course, the energy of spring and new beginnings, where we go, wow, new stuff coming, so there's a positive piece, but it also marks the ending of old things, because that's done and that chapter's closed. Before we went on, I was talking to Jamie about her daughter. Jamie's our camera woman behind the scenes, her daughter graduating. And she was talking about, being emotional. I said, yeah, I remember when I graduated, my mother was crying. I'm like, what are you crying for? She goes, you'll understand when you have kids, like, don't even give me a hard time about it. You're going to understand when you have kids. Because it's a marker of such a change in our lives, so that we're going to be having an element of that shift in graduation. You can't go back to where you were, but you can go forward, but you're remembering the back. That's why I say do the music, because the music is so evocative. You go back to the love song, you go back to the, I love the song Cherish. I remember I got my first kiss to Cherish is the one. It was like, it's like Cherish. I mean, I hear that song and I just go, a little Cavell, and then I have songs that evoke sadness for me, and songs, that I'm like, I'm Helen Reddy, I am woman, hear me roar. Depending on what I need, I go get that music and help. And this is a great week for the music, because there is Orpheus, and he was the musician that played so beautifully. He let Hades let somebody leave the underworld. He got, the music spoke. And we think of how evocative music is in the movies or in the show. You hear the scary music. I start to get nervous when I hear scary music, because it's designed to make you react, but it's also emotional. So you want to go back and look at the old emotions, the new emotions. If you're in a funk, put on music to get yourself out of it. A good friend of mine, Edith, used to play Mozart whenever she got depressed. It's what pulls you out, and what also helps you change, because it's a very changeable week.
And I love that really conscious use of music. And if we're having emotional cray-cray this week, I love that it's almost like a strategic elicitation of the different emotions, so that you can work with them really mindfully and purposefully. And so then when they come up in your life, you have this tool, like you have this go-to. Okay, I'm feeling this, and this is how it feels in my body, and here's how I can breathe into it or work with it. And that's brilliant. I love that. And so I know that Saturn went retrograde.
Yes.
Right. So it's officially retrograde now. Question for you. Would you say, since Saturn is like this heavy weight, sometimes it's like this, big heavy weight, would you say that Saturn retrograde would be a good time for anybody who's wanting to lose weight? And whether that means like physical weight and or just weight from like your world, weight, emotional weight.
Yeah, remember, he's having the square to Uranus all this year. So he's saying, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. So on the radio the other day, Goodwill, I think it was, one of them was saying, hey, you guys are bringing us a lot of stuff, but like it's broken and gross. Like if you wouldn't give it to your mother-in-law, don't give it to us.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, good. Because I was getting some stuff ready for Goodwill, right? They probably don't need my tennis racket that I haven't used since 1994 because it's pretty old and it's probably not in tune, and I'll just throw that away. Because they're like, you're bringing us all your junk and we have to throw it away. Like, don't bring it to us. Throw it away yourself. Only bring us good stuff. So yes, the energy is releasing, but it also has an energy of, because you're letting go of some of the structures, it's good. So like I have a Christmas tree in my closet that I bought back in 1982, maybe. from Gimbel's, which was a department store in New York that is no more. And I bought it in the Christmas tree land. I still remember doing it. And it's in the closet. So I'm going to be spending Christmases in Florida. I thought I can throw the Christmas tree away. You know, it's releasing structures. It also, because he's stationed, he tells you to go back to whatever started on February 14th. That's when he went into his shadow. And he's going to go backwards until I think it is October 10th. And so we're going to look at him. So everything that from February to now is up for revision. But also February was also the 17th of February was when the first square happened of Saturn and Uranus. And Saturn Uranus says, what don't you need? What do you need to let go of to be free to do what you're supposed to do next? That story is unfolding this whole year, February, June, December. But our job is to say, okay, let me jettison that. Do I really need it? No, I don't. And now with Mercury retrograde, it's papers. So I got a shredder because my other shredder won't make it. I'm going to go, I got tax stuff from 2009. I'm going to, you know, kind of clean the closets and do some shredding on Mercury retrograde. Saturn, look at your stuff in your house. I don't need the Christmas tree anymore. I'm not going to put a tree up here in New York. I'll keep the ornaments. So Sagittarius, I'm letting go of the tree. But Gemini, Sun in Gemini, I'm keeping the ornaments. Little things, little piles of things, because I have kind of pattern ornament. That's the energy. Saturn says, what do you need? Uranus says, you don't really need that. And you go, well, it's a breakup. It's a closing integrative square. It's saying, what did you want? What did you start in 88 when those planets met that you don't need anymore, that you're letting go of because you're going into this new chapter?
I love the idea of releasing some of this baggage, you know, some of the whatever dead weight, whatever you want to call it, in order to pick up very consciously what we want to carry next.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, okay, I'm letting go of that because I'm picking up something that is even more aligned with who I am today and my values and all these things, right?
Or aligned with the next chapter.
Yes.
You know? Because it's not, we may not know what the next chapter is, but we know what it isn't. Right. And a lot of times Saturn says it isn't that. And we go, you're right, it isn't. What is it? Okay, what is it? Yeah. And that's the question. What is it?
All right. So in summary, we have emotional cray-cray this week. And this is mainly because of this full moon eclipse that we have on Wednesday and all the out of bound planets and the T-square. So we have a lot of things happening all at once that are making this a really big week. A big emotional week. Okay. So then we also have Mercury slowing down and going retrograde. So this is a potent eclipse season also because of the Pleiades. I mean, so we have this a lot of things happening all at once, which is basically what was 2020. It was like each thing on its own was significant, but each thing happening all at the same time was, you know, just extraordinarily significant. Yeah, like has never happened before. So
it pushed us into a place we'd never seen or been in before.
Exactly. Right. So this is a time where we may be instigating and or experiencing changes in our home and our hearth. So structural changes at home. This is going to be a time of bringing to light things we didn't see before, and that could be unpleasant. But again, remembering that it's coming to light for a reason. We need to see it wherever we're going next. We don't need it anymore, or whatever is, I mean,
or the other thing is we can change our relationship to it. You know, because a lot of times with eclipses, what you do is you go, they've always been like that. They're never going to change. Okay, so let me accept it. Right. It doesn't have to be we get rid of it. It's like we go, wow, that's what they do. And we don't see it with the rose-colored glasses anymore. We see it, you know, Sagittarius is reality. You know, they say, you know, I always say, you know, when I read them, I say, you know, you really need to say to people, do you want me to tell you what I think? And they go, no. And you go, all right. And you look at them and they know what you're thinking, right? You know, the whole thing with Sag is they're truth tellers because they've gone through Scorpio hell And now they're like, I am the light. I am going to tell you what I think. You may not like it, but I'll tell you. And but I'm going to tell the truth because I'm a candle. I'm a light. I bring a light to darkness. So Sagittarius have that truth-telling quality to them, which is unfortunate because not unfortunate, but in an eclipse, it's unfortunate because sometimes the truth is something you really didn't want to hear, but it's going to happen anyway. So now you know it. And now what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, you use the word blindsided, that we could be emotionally blindsided, things that we maybe didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that so you're thinking these will be things that are shocking, like out of nowhere?
No, they've been there. You just find out about them.
Okay, so it's out of nowhere for
it's
you.
A reveal. The full moon is a reveal. Remember, there's been stuff going on for a while. So now you find out about it and you go, okay, now that I know about it, now what do I, it's kind of like, well, I think maybe this is going on. I think maybe this is going on, but I don't know for sure. And then now you find out and you go, all right, now that I know, now I have to decide what I have to do about it.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense? It's like there's like a difference when you know something. Yeah. Yeah.
Everything, you see everything different. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't see that before. Now I see it, and everything's different from now on. Yes. And so you said that this eclipse energy is going to be like that popping. I've been using the volcano. You've been using some other. But that, so it's
Dr. Kim Pimple Popper. For those of you who like to pick, it's fabulous.
Oh God. Okay. So
I know, Amanda, not your thing, but I got a Scorpio at 5. I like watching this stuff come out.
Hilarious. Okay. So it's going to pop the energy and then pump it up again. So almost like the electromagnetic field is going to be like interfered with. And then we're going to have this revving up of energy again after the eclipse.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. You also said there's a couple hammers of Thor. In the past, when we've talked about that, you'll say, oh, there is a hammer of Thor. But this week you're saying there are 4 hammers of Thor. What?
Yeah. Yeah. 4 hammers of Thor. Yeah.
I mean,
in the eclipse, there's hammers.
How unusual is that?
Pretty unusual. It's very unusual. The eclipse is big. I mean, it's really juicy. It's got it's got one finger of God. It's got hammers of Thor. It's got helicopters which fly you out, fly you back in. It's got Rosettas, which are, seeing both sides of the story. But the hammers of Thor, and then there's T-squares, which like knock you out of the park. So there's a lot of energy in this eclipse. It's very juicy. And it is very much like I'm out of here, because many of the hammers of Thor involve Vesta. Like I have to change my home and hearth. So to your point, is it a good week for diets? I'm like, yeah, because you're changing your container for containing your life. So you're saying, I don't want that in my house, either me, my body physically, or I don't want that in my home anymore. I'm shifting the energy. What am I bringing to Goodwill? But Goodwill doesn't want your garbage. So throw it out yourself. And then, they're like, we don't want this.
Right. Yes. Okay. So you said the hammer of Thor energy has this, like, I am done. And I put done in all caps, like
all caps. Right.
That's it. Okay. This is
hammers of Thor are very dramatic. They're like the door slamming, like the exit with the door slam, the exit with the I'm done. They've got a dramatic energy. Think about what it could do. In mythology, it could knock the top off a mountain. So having that many is a lot. Yeah. And
you, in the past, you would say, I remember 3-4 weeks ago, you would say it has that dramatic, like slamming the door energy, but you kept giving the analogy of like the little kid who's like, I'm running away, and you're sort of standing there going, okay, like, see ya, I'll help you pack your bag. And then they'll be back. But
this is when the kid runs away.
This sounds like it has a finality to it. Yeah, this is different. Okay.
It's eclipse. It's like, it's a realization that says it like pops something or breaks something. When you drop a glass or something on the floor and it shatters, you look at it and you go, wow, that's gone. It can't go back.
Right.
It's not fixable. It doesn't mean you can't keep the pieces, but then, you got a bag of broken stuff in you put it in a Ziploc bag and you hang on to it. a number of years ago. It was after my mom died, and we were up in Rochester for Christmas. My mother had Christmas ornaments for each of us. My father really wasn't a particularly sentimental kind of guy. He was an Aries. And my Christmas ornament, we were decorating the tree, and my Christmas ornament fell off the television. Somebody put it on the television, it rolled off and smashed into a billion pieces. And I was really upset because, I'm very sentimental. If you've ever been to my house, I got a lot of stuff that's sentimental. People give me things. It has a memory. It has a story. It has a whatever. And my little Christmas ornament smashed to bits. Of course, it was a 30-year-old ornament because Mom got it when I was born. I still have that ornament in a bag in a drawer in my dresser in the bedroom. I may throw it out this week.
Wow.
But it is I kept it in a little smashed Christmas ornament. Yeah. So it's like that kind of week. It's been smashed for a while, but I held on to it. And so now we're going to say, do you really still need to hang on to a smashed ornament? Or are you ready to let it go? And so we want to kind of think of it that way. And the reason I'm using Christmas is because Sagittarius is Christmas time. And the moon's in Sag, which is saying, do you need it? At that point, I was appalled. My father broke my ornament and didn't seem to care. So I gathered the pieces. But now, it's a broken ornament. It's like it loses its charge.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's that energy. It's that
right.
energy.
Like you're finally ready. I have had that reflection a few times this week of certain things that it's like, wow. And I actually said the words, something broke and it can't go back. And it just is what it is. So I think that's really interesting. And just, again, I'm feeling reflective about how powerful and helpful it is to know these things. Like, because as the different storylines are unfolding in our lives, it's like, okay, this is the invitation right now. I'm actually right where I need to be. This is what's happening. And so there's this level of acceptance that I had that last week where it was the Cray-Cray week. And I can't tell you how many times me and my love would say, it's the grand central of Cray-Cray. Like, that's just what's happening. Like, we just need to be okay with that. And it was so helpful because if I didn't know that, I think I would have been fighting against it a lot more. Like, no, I don't want it to be this way. I want it to be another way. So it's fascinating. Okay. So you said to listen to music, and you were really great on that point. Also to do stuff to ground, because a lot of the energy that's happening right now is ungrounded.
Yes.
So all the things that you do to really ground yourself, this morning, my yoga mat was out. Like it was out from yesterday. I hadn't put it away, but it was so great because I woke up and just like landed on it and just started stretching and breathing. It was like, oh, maybe I should just leave it out. So it's just there. Like as
it just invites me to breathe. Right?
Yes, exactly. So those things, the things that make it easy for you, the little cues that remind you to ground yourself, ground your energy, that's going to be really important this week. Okay, what else? I have like 5 pages of notes today, which is unusual. You said to hold on action. So instead of, if you find yourself in this emotional cray-cray and you find yourself wanting to like lash out and be super reactive to something that's happening, you said to grab a cup of tea, to sit and just be quiet, do whatever you need to find that space, but maybe to pause and really choose how you want to respond to the situation. Yeah. And would you say we're making the choice this week, or would you be saying that we're sort of waiting to make a choice?
No, we make the choice in 2 weeks. Yeah, with the new moon, we make it. So because the new moon is going to say, okay, now based on all you know, what are you doing?
Right.
And that next one is Sun Moon joined in Gemini with Mercury retrograde, because what's going to happen is whatever gets revealed, Mercury's retrograde in a couple of days. So he says, so you want more information?
Ooh.
And you go, maybe not. And so that's where you get to have the opportunity to explore what else has been going on, right? And then you get to decide on the new moon eclipse what you want to do going forward, because that one is exactly square Neptune. And it says, we want to show you what's been happening. Do you understand it? And then you go, I get it. And then it goes, okay, so now we're going to show you the other stuff. And you go, wow, Wow. And then you go, okay, now what? Now that I have that knowledge, what do I do with it? Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, it does.
That's why I don't. That's why, like, if you react and you stomp off, you may not get all the story.
Oh, okay.
You
So
know what I
there's
mean?
more.
So
So I mean,
there's more. So whatever the story is, then you're going to go. So what else have you been doing? Because now they're feeling a little guilty, and they might confess. Or there's parts that are going to be revealed where you go, huh, all right, I had a suspicion. So that's why, the energy is when it's this volatile, we do tend to react. But then it's always helpful for us to give it a pause, give it a pulse. I'm not going to say you're not going to react, but rather than really reacting, just kind of go, okay, so I'd like to know a little more about this. Remember, Saturn's retrograde. He wants to tell you. He wants to reveal things. He wants to say, hey, this has been going on. And you're like, yeah, I kind of had a thought it might have been, but now I find out for sure it went on. Now I have to decide what I think about it.
in so many ways, that clarity is so freeing, because if there is something that you've been sort of suspicious about or feeling like maybe something's happening, it's so good to know, because then we know. Now we have clarity. We can make different choices and we can decide how we want to move forward. Before that, it's nebulous and you're kind of like in that wishy-washy place. So, and Susan B says you could make a little mosaic ornament with that shattered.
That's a good idea.
If you want to mail it to me, my daughters would have the best art project with that. So feel free to mail it to Hawaii. We'll make a little mosaic ornament out of it and send it back to you. So you'll always have it.
Thank you very much. A great idea. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Susan said that.
Like little shards. I just want to say
it'll be a very entertaining, long-lasting mosaic project.
A breaking and a coming together and a reforming. I like that.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Yeah.
Okay. So you said to watch guilt.
Yes.
So are you saying that we may feel a guilt response and to be aware of that and to see how we've been playing into a guilt response and maybe start to release ourselves from that?
Yeah, because part of the thing with guilt is, guilt is a Saturn word and Saturn's retrograde. So he's saying to you, are you actually really responsible for this? Or is this something they need to take responsibility for? And so there's an energy there of, sometimes we feel guilty. Oh, I have to fix it somehow. And it's like, because the energy shoots into the Virgo house. No fixing. Can't fix it. Can make a mosaic ornament out of the shards, but you can't put it back the way it was.
Right.
Right? That makes sense?
Yes. And then you said to watch how we handle criticism.
Yes.
And if for that, would you say what I heard in your story is that you're taking some elements of it as like, okay, there's probably a few things I can work with here. And then you're discarding what doesn't work, but you're, instead of reacting to the criticism and just lashing out at the person, you're going, okay, all right, thank you for the information. And now I can choose what I want to do with it.
Right. Like, I'm mad at you because you did this. And that's why I cheated on you. It's your fault I cheated on you.
Oh,
It's like, no, it's not. You cheated. I did what I did. You cheated. Right. So there's an energy there of responsibility. Right. But being blamed, like, you did this, so that's why I did that. It's like, no, we all have free will here. I was doing that. And if you were unhappy, rather than cheating on me, talk to me about it. Right. So it's kind of that's where the guilt can come in, where we're blaming on some level, as opposed to going, okay, how do we do it? And I think one of the things we want to kind of think about is, what is the energy we want between us? And a lot of times when you get blamed, someone else blames you for their bad behavior and they're over 29 or even over 18, they're responsible for you made me do it. It's like, no, I didn't make you do anything. You chose to do it. You might have been reacting to what I was doing, but you did it. So it's really understanding how to parse that apart and to look at it and go, okay, I had a bad reaction because you did this, but then I did this really bad thing and now it's your fault. It's like, no. Let's talk about what our responsibilities are and not feel guilty if someone's trying to give you the blame for something. I mean, if you did something, take responsibility for it. But if you didn't and you're getting blamed for it, you want to kind of look and go, you keep blaming me for the stuff you do, but you're the one doing it. Why am I getting blamed for it? Not my choice. Right. I mean, maybe it is your choice. I did leave the silverware in the sink and didn't wash it. I know that annoys you, but does that entitle you to come and dump a bowl of ice cream on my head? No. It's but yes, I didn't do the silverware. Like, I didn't wash the silverware, but that doesn't mean you can do this other thing. It's understanding the dynamic of the exchange and why we're doing what we're doing in response to stimulus. It's really kind of trying to get us to have a pause between the stimulus and response. Does that make sense?
Love that. Yeah, I love that, exploring the line between self-responsibility and taking on guilt. I think probably my guess would be a lot of the people in our community are the ones who take on even more than they need to, like blaming themselves for more than is actually true. Yeah. So it's, that place of like, well, actually, no, like that's not my responsibility the way you responded. So I think that's going to be an interesting exploration for everybody.
It's an interesting parse. It allows you to kind of put it in two piles, and you don't, like if I don't take responsibility for it, then whose is it?
Right.
Rather than getting mad because you left the silverware unwashed in the sink, maybe I need to have a conversation about washing silverware with you. And then you say, I hate washing silverware. And I go, you hate it? Yeah, I hate touching forks. I'm like, interesting. Well, whatever that's about. Okay, so now I understand you hate touching forks. I'm not afraid of washing silverware. I can wash the silverware. And it's okay.
So that's revealing a deeper truth there. It's revealing a deeper truth, a deeper why someone is behaving a certain way. And so once we have that understanding, then it's easier to accommodate someone's desires or needs.
Or not.
Or decide we're not willing to do that. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Don't take the blame for it. Just say, like, I hate washing silverware. I'm willing to wash every other dish. I mean, I do that sometimes with a client. We're talking about partner, and partner is a fussy about food, and they like to cook. And they're fussy about food. So when they go shopping for partner always hates what they bring home. And I'm like, well, the solution is let them shop. Like, you're not going to bring home Hellmann's, and they like Hellmann's. Let them buy the food. I never thought of that. Yeah. Well, it changes the dynamic because you do the dishes. They cook. It's like we're in a position of negotiating how we want things to proceed, and maybe we don't want to shop anymore, because every time we shop, we get criticized because we bring home the wrong thing. Well, you go shop then. Mm-hmm. I don't have to. It's like a negotiation too. Like, what am I actually responsible for here, or not?
Yeah, you're talking like renegotiating structure.
Yeah.
So in this process, we may be going through this period of remembering the past, and there could be some nostalgic and some sentimental feelings about that. But then it's turning our attention towards what will the new life look like, and what's the new structures that we're building. And I know this is like an overarching theme for this entire year, but it sounds like it's very activated and highlighted this week.
Right, because remember, on the 14th, after these two eclipses, we have the second square. So these are really helping us see. We did the first square on February 17th.
Right.
And now we're doing the which was the opposition to the opening thing last August, the full moon in Aquarius. Now we're doing the second square, but we have these two eclipses before it that point out, well, what do you actually really need? So that we're ready with this second eclipse to do some more work, because Uranus is direct, Saturn is retrograde. So so Uranus is saying to proceed, we want to do this. Saturn's going, well, we need to go back and release some of the old stuff. Retrograde release, right? And then the next one is in December, when they're both, when Saturn's going forward and Uranus is retrograde. And Saturn says, okay, we're going forward. And Uranus goes full steam ahead, baby. I'll catch you in 2025. So, Saturn separates and rolls away from Uranus, and we've created our new structures. So yeah, so that's why the eclipses are happening. They're helping us see, oh, you don't really need that anymore, do you? Or you do, a new way. So I'll have instead of shards drawer, I'll have a mosaic Christmas ornament to hang on the tree in my new house because I'm going to throw away the old tree. But that ornament never hung on my own tree. It always hung on my parents' tree, or it sat in my drawer now, probably 30 years. but it's, like, what do you want to do with it? So it's a really interesting time. And I think really the key for all of us is to be really kind to ourselves. And rather than taking the blame or feeling responsible or whatever, just sitting down and going, okay, that is what it is. There, panacea, pat yourself. There, it's going to be okay. Going to be okay. Kind of pat your arm and, or pat your belly if you're a Cancer, because Cancers are really feeling it right now. Yeah. Well, it's, it's sentimental. So you want to pat and say, okay, now what? And then, okay, go forward.
I like what LM says. Sounds like clarity is coming at long last, one way or another.
Yes. Excellent.
Yes. Very good.
Mercury just squared Neptune and Venus is about to. And then Mercury and Venus are going to meet up and they're going to have a chat and they're going to go, what happened to you? What, this happened to me. And they kind of make a plan. And then Mercury then goes back to Neptune and talks to him and says, I just want to clarify what you said. In the meantime, Venus goes ahead and she goes, I got it. I'm out of here. I'm going forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Huge week. We have the most people on live that I think we've ever had right now, Anne.
Wow. Okay.
We have over 1,000 people on live. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. So this is great. I'm glad that we've been able to share this time and give some insights and foresight into the energy. You're all prepared, have your music ready, have your grounding ready, put your yoga mat out, whatever it is you need to do. It's a big week and you're not alone. That's one of the amazing things about astrology too. It's like, okay, so it's not just me. I'm not the only one experiencing this. I'm not the only one that feels like things are going really crazy and I'm going crazy with it. This is what's happening. So if you want some more insights into the rest of the year and into 2022, make sure you sign up for the free event. The summer, it's not summer. I'm not saying that because I'm not excluding you in the Southern Hemisphere. It's the solstice panel. It's the solstice panel. It's a special edition. It's entirely free. We're having Judith Hill and Divine Harmony, Cameron Allen, Amelie Grace, Kira Taborn, Ari Moshi, Tom Jacobs. I think I said everybody, 7 astrologers. And you go to astrologyhub.com/solstice. astrologyhub.com/solstice. If you can't join us live, make sure you join anyways, because then we'll send you the replay. And it's also the opening to our inner circle enrollment period, which we only open twice a year. And we will be opening on June 3rd for a couple weeks. So any of you who've been like, oh, what's this inner circle thing about? I think I might want to try it out. This will be a great time to hop in and get a taste and a feel for what we do in the inner circle. We're having our full moon, live full moon forecast with Bronwyn Simon today. So all of you Inner Circle members, I'll see you again soon. And this has been so helpful. Wow. Like action-packed week. We got our instructions. We got our guidance. And I'm very, very grateful for you. Thank you for being here with us every single week. You're amazing.
Astrology. Thank you.
Yes.
Astrology. Yes.
Yes. And if you haven't joined Astrology in Your Pocket yet, would be a great week to get on board with that. Please, international people, I know I got you. We're working on it. But for anybody in the United States and Canada, you can go to astrologyhub.com/pocket and get day-to-day insights. So this is like the week. We're going to break it down every single day. Anne's going to give you the insights for that day via audio, via text. And then you'll get the real-time transits as they're happening. So you get lots of reminders throughout the week. This is another thing that helps me personally stay grounded in the energy. Like, okay, oh yeah, we talked about that. It's happening now. Here was the strategy Anne said. It's happening now. I should probably get my music out. It's happening in real time. So check that out too. All right, everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I just want to say one thing. We were tracking the peacocks while Amanda was on vacation. There's now going to be 4 more peacocks in her backyard because Mama had 4 babies. This is very exciting.
Mama had 4 babies. And so that means the male peacocks, both of them, are now at my house pretty much full time. I think they're like, I'm out of here. There's a lot of babies around. So we have the 2 males here. We have 4 baby peacocks. The other thing we got while I was gone, sheep.
Oh, okay. Turning into a farm, Amanda.
There's going to be some sheep. I love sheep. If they're making noises, that'll just be the funnest thing ever. But I didn't really realize I was moving to an animal farm, but I have. And we now have 7 horses in the pasture. So
wow. Okay.
None of these animals are mine, but we get the pleasure of enjoying them. Yes, exactly.
I loved when the goat was bleeding. He's been very quiet lately, but now
I love the goats. Yeah. Oh, the baby goats are just the best. They like frolic around and make these cute noises. It's unbelievable. All right, everybody.
Spring. Yeah.
Spring, yes. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of our community. And thank you, as always, for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great week. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.